What's up, guys? It's Minion for versus game, and I'm gonna be doing a little bit of story time. So, if anybody pops in, you can go ahead and ask me a question. I'm not sure. So this is the first time I've actually done something like this. But basically, I'm gonna be talking about some stories of like my, I guess, wrestling career and stuff like that. Um, Hopefully, you'll all be able to hear me and everything. Um, and what I did is I actually wrote it down because this has been like 20 years ago. So I'm trying to keep things as much as my memory as I can, but also 20 years ago. And I remember some things, but some stuff I had to kind of string together in order to make it sound like it was one continuous thing and not just random things that I remembered. So some of it's a little fuzzy, and I don't want to say fake because it did happen, but at the same time, I mean, everybody remembers a story differently, and every time you tell a story, it changes a little bit. So I'm gonna try and do my best. I did, like I said, I typed it out for what I have there, but I'm gonna try to keep it as close to what happened. And so this is gonna be a small story time series I'm gonna call Beer Tabs and Body Counts, because I was trying to write a book, but it's so much to try to remember and the time span that I have to write things down. So this was my, I guess, debut into like an actual match. And so I called this one a debut to forget because they always say you always, it's a debut to remember. And what's up, Broken Mike? Glad you could make it. Um, and I guess as I was just explaining, I'm gonna go over my story. I did write it out because I have trouble remembering things. It was like 20 years ago, so um, I'm kind of just gonna read, and if you have questions or anything like that, you can always go ahead and ask me. Um, Pretty open book. I'll try to remember as much as I can. So this is my beer tabs and body counts, and this one's a debut to forget. So the entrance music always blared out of the crappy speakers that sat on the laminate plywood tables that announcers would use to introduce matches and tell the random patrons that their car was blocking the entrance, was about to be towed. So I had come down a couple times to take a look and see what was kind of expected of me. I wasn't going to be there to win. I already knew that. I just had to be convincing enough that I looked like I was trying to win. And I looked hurt without actually getting injured. So far later on down the line, I failed at that. But I had only been practicing for enough that I knew how to fall and try not to get injured. But because I knew how to fall, I ultimately knew how to lose. So Reynaldo or Raymundo, some other name with an R. Everybody just called him El Rey, which in Spanish is the king. And he trained me for at least a few weeks. I don't exactly remember. I swear he just kind of hired people based on their ability to throw people, um, while kind of being completely incoherent in English. So I had gone to see him a few times because he actually was a wrestler at one point, and was kind of doing his own little company kind of thing. Um, Looking back on it, I always see things like wrestling licenses and things like that, and so I don't think he was totally legit. I scoured the internet for back in the day for HTML websites like Angel Fire and things like that back in the day. Can't find it anywhere. But I would go to like some of the wrestlers. They would like, I don't know if that's just a thing back then. Like I remember the Hearts would like have their wrestling mats and things like that um, in their basements and things. So I guess it was kind of a thing just for wrestlers to do that. I was trying to hide it, so obviously didn't have that. Um, and so I would go and train, and he basically was just throwing me around. And then I was no longer allowed to train at his house after he body slammed me and my foot went through the window of his dryer. Um, and so it didn't occur to me how, at the time, how stupid it was going to go into the basement of a strange man's house who spoke mostly Spanish. So, bad on me, stranger danger. Um, so, I waited in the hallway adjacent to the auditorium for my music to come on. One day these people would know the name of the minion. Unfortunately, this was not that day. And I had yet to become the minion. I could hear the guitar picking start from House of the Rising Sun from the Animals. And Mason Dawn made his way through the double doors. So, for anyone wondering, the man in the bright yellow tights was me. And I wish I had a picture because they were terrible and ugly, and that's just. This is before I even got red tights. This is yellow, ugly yellow tights. And so, I actually awkwardly tried to strut up to the ring and blow kisses to the ladies. Um, it was like the honky tonk man had a baby with Dude Love and contracted Parkinson's while smoking crack. So, I chose the name Mason after Mick Foley, who was going to be Mason the Mutilator or something like that. And so I remember the name Mason, and that was the first thing that came to me. And I was apparently supposed to have some sort of sun theme, so I went with the name Dawn. And I had, but I was getting my ass kicked, so I wasn't sure it mattered. Um, I was the epitome of unsexy, but I guess they thought my red hair might make up for that, or something. And so, after I kind of baby giraffed my way up to the side of the ring steps, I heard the music start again, and Fight the Power by Public Enemy garbled its way through those terrible speakers that was just sitting there on them. And you see those plywood tables all the time. Those are the ones that, when they go get the tables and all that, that's the ones that they put you through. Those were our announcer tables. Um, and so that song came on, and this guy, I'm not sure I remember all of their names correctly, so I kind of put them as the name that I think I remember, or it's close to that. He was either Prison Break or Jailbreak, but he like flexed his way to the ring, like walking, and I'm the token. I don't know. He was like 5'10" and like 300 pounds, so it's like pure muscle, and so he kind of looked like Michael Clark Duncan, like a short version, and he's going up against this guy that looks like he rents out the video cart from the AV club. And so my entire body was like a bundle of nerves, and I could barely keep from shaking. So I hopped on the second rope and did my best pose with my arms, and he did his like that jump that you see them do over the top rope, where they like kind of kick their legs out to the side while they're jumping, go over the top rope. Like he'd done it a million times, and I was like, I am gonna climb over this. It was an interesting thing to watch. So he landed in the ring and did his flex, and ding, there goes the metal bell, and I regretted that sound for like days after. So I'm not sure if they told him to come as close to possibly killing me as he could, but it sure felt like it. He flung me against the ropes, and I sprung back against it, only to come back and hit a fleshy brick wall. I smacked right into his chest, and I hit the ground. And you could hear the crowd just like groaning, like they couldn't. It was terrible. Um, and so the crowd groaned. He flexed. That was his thing. He would just flex like all the time. Like I guess he was supposed to be in the prison yard and like like weightlifter kind of thing. So then he picks me up in like the military press and just throws me up and I come straight back down, and like so face first, just to the ground. And I was already in pain just from like you don't realize how much it hurts to like just hit the ground until like somebody does it to you from like you know 5 6 feet up in the air. And I was gonna learn further on it was gonna hurt more. So I could feel the adrenaline start to surge, and it really does help you, and you won't feel it for a while. But it was gonna have to carry me for about the next 12 minutes. So it's really important when you're wrestling to have good communication. Um, I wouldn't say we were the best communicators, but we were pretty good about not hurting each other. Um, and so I could hear him go neckbreaker. It's like, and coming from him, I was like, rah, rah, rah. So he flung me against the ropes, and remembering my earlier clash with the wall man, I jumped in there and somehow grabbed him and managed to pull it off. And so our backs collided with the mat, and crowd explodes like. And I say crowd, there's probably like 5 people, but they're like, "Oh my god!" And so I popped myself up, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do this," and kind of doing a little trash talking to him on the ground. And so he rose to his feet, and so I threw myself at the ropes, and I was coming back, get him with a clothesline, and I got him, and he, legs come out, everything, and like he made it look spectacular. I probably barely even, glanced him, and he just, you gotta sell it, and so he managed to do that, and so it looked like I actually have a shot. So he pops up again, and I do that like I don't know the crazy beast like hitting the ground like we got to do this, and so I start taunting him, and so I'm getting like really into it. The adrenaline's pumping through me. I'm like halfway between throwing up and like you know having the most amazing time in the world. And I jump to the ropes, and I come back, and I sprung off the ropes again. And so as I come back from the slingshot, he's standing, and his massive arm comes up with this big clothesline of its own. And my momentum, I shot, I was going, and I went, and basically just kind of like did a little landing. And I felt my head bounce off the mat. So you're kind of supposed to like make sure that most of the area that you land on is your back. And so it kind of like tapped me in the back of the head and was like, oh, that's not good. And I kind of slid across the ring and out onto the floor. And you'll probably notice as I go on in my stories that I somehow ended up on the floor a lot, like outside. So it's just a thing, I guess. That was my thing. So I'm not really like a religious man, but I was thanking the Lord that they surrounded the ring with gym mats, so I didn't crack my head open on the linoleum covered concrete. It, being as days was something I was not aware I was going to become accustomed to, and in the time I spent wrestling, uh, I, the things I did, I'm still amazed that I never really actually broke bones. I compressed things and I sprained myself and things like that, but nothing that bad. So it felt me like the floor had punched me, like I made a comment about its mother, and I'm like, is this how boxers get brain damage? I did. That was the first thing that came through my head. I didn't have time to consider the question when I felt him springboard over the top rope, and he landed with his knee into my back. And oh my god, that hurt so bad. That's like one of the few things that I remembered is it just went right into the small of my back, just the knee just and I didn't think I was gonna get up from that. And you can tell how bad you're supposed to look like you're hurt by the crowd's reaction, but I kind of didn't really need their help at that moment. and it felt like an eternity. But I got up, and I saw him in a 3-point stance, and he charged at me, and I managed to dive out of the way. So, and like I'm saying, we communicate with each other, but I'm kind of leaving those parts out because, we're obviously like, oh, we kind of like have our little words to each other that we know that this is what we need to do just to make sure that we don't hurt each other. From that close, the impact of the metal stairs was deafening. He laid convulsing next to the steps, and I laid on the ground on the area not covered by gym mats. Um, and I'm not sure. I think I remember we were kind of on the side, like over on one end, and the crowd was mostly on one side. So they were like, "Oh, what's going on over there?" And like, we're just laying on the floor. And so I could feel the linoleum was like nice and cool, and it felt really nice against my skin, because it literally burnt. Like you get like little, like kind of, I don't want to say rashes, but like you know what it's like when somebody gives you like they rub your arm or something like that, and you get one of those things. Um, and so we battled back and forth for the next few minutes, doing the slaps across the chest and stuff like that, knees to the midsection, elbow to the jaw, just kick to the body and stuff. And we had a quick shift, back and forth, and he had me held above him again in a military press. And I waited to fall straight back to the floor, but after a few reps, he's like doing this, and he tosses me back out of the ring. And that time, I missed the mats, because the mats only go so far, and he was trying to do it so that I would fall, but I cleared them and hit them and kind of rolled out. And so I felt like the air escaped out of me like it never existed in my lungs before. And I had like a genuine sense of panic, not knowing if I'd ever breathe again. And so I crawled back towards the ring, just like, and I was grateful for any gasp that would fill my air sac. Um, I looked up in time to roll away out of another knee. Um, like he jumped. I guess that was one of his moves or something. He would just jump out and hit you with his knee. But I managed to like move out of the way. And so I stood up as best as I could and delivered a few kicks while he was on the ground in pain. And as I walked away, he tripped me, and I fell on the ground, just long enough for him to stand. When I got up, he whipped me toward the ring, and not knowing how to slide in, I went chest first into the side. So like where the apron and the mat is, I just went pull, fell back. Um, and then for my apparent mistake, he decided he was going to lift me again, and he threw me through the first and second rope, just so basically another military press, and just threw me back in. And so I'm tired of losing my breath. I imagine after a few good shots that I gotten in, he was tired of kicking my ass. Because I recall very little after the chest shot into the side of the ring, so I don't know how far along we were in the match. I do know we wrestled for like just a few more minutes before I laid on the ground in the middle of the ring, and he did his signature pose, like how I guess like Hulk Hogan does his like I'm gonna do the big boot and the leg drop thing, or because he was supposed to be like a prisoner or jail whatever, he had a finishing move. It's called the electric chair, and I think that's a normal move that everybody knows is the electric chair. And so what he does is he sat me up on his shoulders, and he keeps me up for a bit, does his little side thing, pops me up over his head, and I go face first while he falls down. So I just blah, and then he just like flips me over and pins me. Um, so I remember it hurt because I wasn't quite sure how to like block my face. I did hit like to the side, so I knew I at least managed to smash my face the right way. I don't know if that's a thing, but so he face first down to the ground, and a bell rang, and we were done. I don't remember the 3 count. I don't remember leaving the ring. Hey Hannah, thanks for joining my little story. I'm kind of close to the end, but you know, they're short stories, so it'll be interesting if you go back and watch it. So I don't remember the 3 count. I don't remember leaving the ring. I don't remember walking back to the dressing room. I just I got my ass handed to me by somebody that was like 3 times my size. And the only thing I could remember was a voice. I don't know if you know who Kathleen Turner was, but she has a very gruff voice, sounding like she smoked a bunch of cigarettes, and was telling me, you know, good job, great. Um, and I felt a pat on the back turning as I was walking by, and I turn around, and I'm not gonna say this is where my love for butts comes, but I watched her walk away in this like tight little black bicycle shorts, like I guess were like really popular in the 80s. And I think I remember it was like Warrant's Cherry Pie was starting to play, and I was supposed to go back through the double doors, but I kind of just watched as walked all the way to the ring. So I got a little bit of trouble for that, but nothing too bad. Um, and so I just followed it. I don't. I remember that. I probably dreamt about it. Um, but the next thing I remember was ding bell, and then I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember any of that. And it'd be a few days before I remembered pretty much anything else about that night. So yeah, so my very first match was against Michael Clark Duncan looking kind of guy. You know, we're not very tall here in El Paso. There's usually a lot of Hispanics and stuff like that. We're technically majority of us are short. We were usually roughly about 5'6". It's usually where we top out is maybe 5'10", and that's how tall he was. But he was like rock muscle, like I don't know. I guess Bobby Lashley is like what I would equivalent him to now. So yeah, that was my first match. My first, you know, finisher done to me, taken out just completely. I do say that the running into the side of the ring is what really, you know, took me out and dazed me, and I just don't know what was going on. So I hope you all have enjoyed my story. This one was a debut to forget. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions or anything like that. You can feel free to ask me. Um, but yeah, I tried to remember as much as I could, and I'm hoping to do a lot more of these. So, and I think people are getting home. If I got offered to wrestle again, would I? If my body was able to physically handle it, I would. I loved it a lot. There's a lot of pain, um, but as I go through more of these series, I may actually even do it the next one, which is my final match. Um, but where I got injured to where I'm not physically able to anymore. So um, it's a bit of a touchy subject, and it really used to bother me. But like I said, you know, now being part of the BUW and stuff like that, it's really helped me to come to terms with it. Um, and like I see things like what I was talking about in the chat before, uh, in Mike's, was that I see things like how they what they do to Edge, and how that like really, it gets to me. Um, the yellow one, I actually borrowed from El Rey. It was like some old yellow tights that he had, and they had like crowns on them, and so we we kind of joked that they were supposed to be suns, like with the sun rays, and so I borrowed them from him. Um, and so yeah, that's what they were supposed to be. But we were like, okay, well they're sun, and so that's why we came up with the sun theme, and I came up with the Mason Dawn character, um, which I'm not gonna lie, the Minion was not that good of a wrestler. Mason Dawn was terrible. he I was just terrible as Mason Dawn. Luckily, I didn't. I only wrestled as that for maybe 4 or 5 months before, um, because I was supposed to be like a real, face, before they like decided it would be better if I went and if, like I turned heel. And then that's when people actually started liking me more, I guess, or like to hate me, which I I don't feel like I'm that great of a job at doing the heel, but like because we had like a lot of good characters, um, they were able to play off of me being, I guess, the bad guy. Um, yeah, but I will go into probably more of like the whole costuming and stuff like that. Like when we decided to change, um, I did post a picture on Twitter of me in like kind of a Halloween costume thing. And other than the makeup, um, I guess that would be as close to what I was as a minion back then. I think I did prefer being the heel because I liked kind of more the darker character. I think the being like the in the yellow tights and which eventually got turned to red, it was just it didn't really speak to me. Um, the first couple ones were borrowed. I actually didn't have money to like go to full on like wrestling classes and stuff like that, or and that's why I said I see things like wrestling license, and I'm like, I don't think this guy's legit now that I'm looking back at it. Um, Later on, when I was the minion, I kind of just like you'll see the wrestlers like that they wear the tights and things like that, but then there's wrestlers that are just like cargo pants and I mean, do you see John Cena with those like big shorts, the jean shorts and stuff like that? He's basically just wrestling in regular clothes. And then that's what I ended up doing. I just wear um, black pants. They were like the kind of like cargo pants. Um, and then I had a black sleeveless shirt. Um, and then if you saw my pictures from back in the day, I didn't have long hair. I had like really short hair. And then over time, I grew it. It probably didn't really get long until I was almost done wrestling. And I wouldn't say that's what attributed to my injury, because when I explain what ended up happening, um, the, you'll be like, okay, that yeah doesn't have anything to do with it, but um, I guess I wasn't used to long hair at that point, and so it started to hinder me. And once you get to like a certain length, and like where you can't like tie it back, and it just gets in your face and stuff like that, and So yeah, I had issues with things like that. But yeah, at first they were just given to me and like lent to me, and then I eventually just wore whatever black, and that was it. My favorite part, I'll talk about that one in one of my other matches when I do one of those. But I remember um, being kind of dazed and and it does hurt. Everybody's always like, oh, they know how to fall, all wrestling, and it's like it's fake and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, but you still get hurt. You're like, who's gonna win, but I remember being like really like I was worn out and everything like that, and there was a kid that I'd seen like a couple times, and he was there with his dad, and his dad was like, I'm just there to get beer, and my son loves wrestling, and they come up to me sometimes, hey, great job and stuff like that. Um, but I remember in one of those matches, that's when uh, that kid saw me like do like a really cool move, I guess, to him, and he I remember him standing on the chair and just like, yeah, like he was so excited, um, and just seeing him, enjoying what I was doing, like gave me the strength to like keep pushing on and trying to do stuff. Honestly, I couldn't ever have pictured you with shorter hair. To be fair, also I'm guessing you guys would say the same about me. Yeah, sometimes when you put your hair back, I think of you like with the like shorter hair. So like sometimes when I do it, like I feel like that's what I kind of still look like. But my hair used to come forward, and like now it like that it's longer, it kind of feathers out. I need to take a shower though because it's getting a little oily right now. Um, and that's the problem is because I live in the desert. My hair gets oily, and so that was the issue I had is like my hair got in my eye and stuff like that. So when I go on to the what happened in my last match, you, that's why I'm like wasn't too sure about having longer hair. Um, but it was at that point where I couldn't tie it back and stuff. So, but yeah, I do want to do some more of the these story times. Um, I've written down only a couple of them just because I'm trying. I'm not trying to do them just like in chronological order, but I thought it would be fun to talk about the first time I did it and just how amazing it felt to be that terrible. Um, and just like it's something that I miss, but I'm glad that I got to do it. So I want to thank you guys for coming to the stream, listening to me ramble on about my little story, and then so um, I guess they're looking for me. So thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. Um, Hopefully, you guys will be able to make it to the next one. And I guess they're looking for me, so I'll go ahead and end it there. Um, and I'll see you guys hopefully at the next BUW live stream. Love when you guys stop by, and hopefully I'll see you next time.